We are live. Hey, Reggie Kearney.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a new edition of Real World News TV. I'm Reginald Kearney, or Reggie Kearney, one of your hosts. With me tonight, we have Tony Breelove, the boss lady, another one of the hosts. Derek Terry, he's won't be with us tonight. He has some personal business to take care of, and Sharon Tappet is not with us tonight either. She won't be back until probably end of April. She's dealing with some other issues herself, so we want to keep Cheryl Ann and her family in prayer. We also have a special guest with us tonight, Cheryl Dorsey, retired, I believe, sergeant from the Los Angeles Police Department, who's an authority on a lot of issues and a lot of things. She's a very good authority on a lot of issues that take place in the police community. And we're going to have her on later on. She'll be coming into the show. But right now, as you know, Cheryl Dorsey is a much sought after commentator and expert on CNN and MSNBC. So we were grateful to be able to get her tonight to step in for a minute because she has a very busy schedule. And she's been on the show before when we were doing it through the blog radio. She had been with us a couple of times. But tonight, we want to discuss some of the ongoing issues with the police department. And before I get into it, I want to let everyone know we're not here to bash police officers tonight or anything like that. There are some very fine officers out there, but we also have some officers out there that can at times be rogue and do their own thing, So that's what we want to discuss tonight in light of the acquittal on March the 22nd of a police officer, a white former police officer in Pennsylvania who was acquitted of all charges for fatally wounding and shooting and killing Antwon Rose II, who was only 17 at the time. He was shot in the back. Y'all will have to excuse me today. I'll tell you, these allergies are coming around and coughing and stuff. But what happened was it was doing a traffic stop. Him and the other two other young men in the car fled. And he was shot in the back seconds after running away from the police officers. Now let's recognize that Rosfeld had just been sworn in 2 hours prior to this killing as a police officer. Okay, and his statement on why he's decided to shoot at the young man, very unbelievable, but he was acquitted by a jury of his peers. Okay, and hopefully his family will find some justice in the federal court system. So we want to talk about tonight, why is this continue to happen? Why are white officers shooting and killing young black men and basically getting away with it, okay, in many different cities. We look back at a situation, I believe, in San Diego, where the young man was running and he started running back towards the police officers, and they thought he had a gun in his hand. He had a cell phone. And we understand the training that the police officers go through, and we know that a lot of decisions are made on a split second. And we know that many times they are protecting themselves and the lives of the innocent. But when someone is running away from you, I mean, is there a reason? What you think, Tony?
You know what? There is no reason. They're fleeing away from you. That's the whole premise. They're fleeing away. So how can you feel threatened, which is usually the excuse, right? That's right. Usually the excuse as to why a law enforcement officer will shoot someone, is they say that I feared for my life. And that seems to be the premise for a lot of situations that we hear about where young people are shot down, even older black men are shot down in the streets and killed by law enforcement agencies. They say they fear for their lives. But I don't understand how you can fear if someone is going away from you. But in the case of this child, Rose, you know, again, shot in the back, fleeing. But you felt, or when I say you, I'm speaking of the officer, the former officer, you felt that he was a threat to you. So I have a huge problem with that. I don't know how we're going to somehow gather justice for people who lose their lives at the hand of police officers who are quick on the trigger. I don't see, and then a jury will find them innocent or acquit them. I don't understand how we're going to get past that. And that's why I'm so looking forward to Cheryl joining us to give us some clarity as to what she can ascertain as to why an officer would draw down his gun to shoot someone when they are fleeing. That, you know, I don't get it. You know, we've seen this in so many different cases. We've seen this. Is it an issue of training? Because like you mentioned, and like it's reported, this officer had just completed his training. So was he supposed to be on the street at this point? Shouldn't there be some extra time given? It's just too many things that leave me question. That's all. Yeah.
And you know, as I look back over the years, police brutality has been around for years, ages. Okay, and I was looking at TV over the weekend, and I don't know, it might have been MSNBC, and they did a flashback of some of the civil rights marches that took place. Okay, and you see the blatant police brutality that took place during the civil rights movement, with officers sicking dogs on to individuals, to black individuals. You had John Lewis almost killed crossing the Evan Pettis Bridge,
right?
During Bloody Sunday. So the issue of police brutality has been around for many years. You know, the problem really continues on today, and there's not enough being done to curtail this situation. You know, it seems like every month or every other week, some young black man is getting killed, and the officers getting acquitted. You know, you take Tamar Rice out in Cleveland, you know, just playing at the playground,
right?
With a play gun, you know, and the officer pulls up and just jumps out, looks at him, doesn't question him, and shoots him.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, the system is broke. It is definitely broke.
Is it so much as the system, or is it that the people who are employed by these law enforcement agencies, are they the ones that are broken? Is that system broken?
Yes and no. I mean, that's a good question. That's a good question. Training is very important. Hiring is very important. Psychological tests are very important. And, you know, it's like, even, and you know, too, because you hire people, you feel like at times you're hiring the best, and people can talk their way through an interview, and then once they get on the job, you find
you're not worth a darn.
You know, these psychological tests, you know, you can pass those, okay? You can get through them, you know, if you just know how to answer the questions and stuff, you know. So,
right.
And in training also, you know, but you know, one point you made earlier, and I do agree with you on that point, is that, you know, shouldn't that young man been riding along with a seasoned officer? Should he even been allowed to be a part of that pursuit?
Right.
Shouldn't the senior, if he was traveling with a senior officer, shouldn't he had told him to just sit tight for a minute,
right,
and let them take care of, you know, realize that he had only been on the force for 2 hours, you know.
Right.
What were the procedures for bringing in a young, a 2-hour-old police officer into a scene, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So I want to try and address a comment well, let me first go back and say hello to Miss Jacqueline, author Lynette Jewell. It's good to see you as well, and Kathleen Kumar. But Jacqueline says they are killing us in a split second without hesitation. Shaking her head on that one. Do you think that there's a level of hesitation? Because in this case, with this young man, Rose, and all the ones that were prior to him, was there hesitation? Would you think that it's hesitation? I mean, with the outcome being as it is, was there hesitation?
But how long is a hesitation moment? You know, that's the question you got to ask. You know, with the young man in San Diego, there wasn't a whole lot of hesitation there with him. You know, in the other shootings that took place around the country, you know, the other case in point, I believe it was Chicago, where again, the young man was fleeing away from the police officers, and he was shot.
Yeah,
running away from them.
Yeah,
you know.
But that's the whole. That's the whole case. Is that I don't see how a jury can come back and make the decision that this officer, because he said he fears for his life, that it's okay. Because Jacqueline, she refers to the word as a target, that we're targets. Is that correct? We are targets, and does it make it okay when you have, say, what we call a jury of our peers? Does it make it okay? What is it that we are doing, or we possess, that makes people think that we are not only a threat but a target?
Well, I think I'm going to do a two-part answer here, okay?
All right.
Let me see. Which part do I want to do first? Well, let me do this part first. When you're sitting on the jury, you want to be okay. Let's look at it this way. You're on a jury, okay? The young men were all, and I'm pretty sure this information was brought up in the proceedings, and I don't have a transcript to know what was said in court, but okay, now the young men had already been involved in a crime, okay? Okay. There's video of tape showing them cleaning out the car, okay?
Okay.
Then there's a police chase, okay? So it's three things that have happened, okay? And then a young man, is gunned down, okay? In the minds of the jury, this is just my opinion, okay? They are probably looking at the fact that these young men had already been involved in a crime, okay? So they are probably giving a little edge to the police officer, okay, and saying that he did the right thing, okay? When it's obvious he didn't do it, okay? So I think too many times jurors are siding on the side of the officer, okay? And regardless of what you do, okay, there's nothing that justifies you being gunned down, shot in the back, okay?
Yeah, but since when is it okay to make a victim the perpetrator?
That's what they're doing.
Those are two separate things, because in the case of Rose, if they felt that he was, part of committing a crime, that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
It's a separate issue. They weren't shooting at him because they caught him at a crime.
Right.
That wasn't the issue.
Right. He's away from the crime scene where the crime is completed. They're trying to make a arrest other individuals involved in the crime. The guys naturally jump out of the car and started running. Okay, and then this is the other part to my question, my other answer to the question, okay? He's gunned down by a white cop, okay? Now, let's get this is really dig in a little bit now, okay? Now,
cuss, Reggie.
I'm not, but look, with the change in government here in the United States, okay, and the really onslaught of racism as it is today, it's gotten bigger, and people are, just doing their own thing when it comes to racist acts. Okay, and I think we've talked about this before. How you don't know who the real racists are at this time, or the individuals who are part of the hate groups are.
Okay.
Because the hate groups have said, look, we've got to have a new strategy. Okay, and the strategy has to be that we attack African Americans from a standpoint of being professionals. Okay, whether we are doctors, lawyers, police officers, things of that nature. Okay, you don't see them dressing up in their paraphernalia no more, their cone hats and their white sheets. Okay,
right.
So my feeling, and like I said, this is my opinion, people. Okay, that this young man on this ship on this police staff for only 2 hours, having only been a sworn officer for 2 hours. Okay, I don't know the man. Okay, I'm feeling it's a mixture of a little bit of everything in this whole thing with his personality and how he looks and feels towards African Americans. Okay, and I think a lot of stuff played into his shooting, and I'll be honest, this is me saying this, I think the boy was a racist. Okay.
Well, right. I mean, you know what? Every time we talk about these incidents, right? Mm-hmm. I always go back and I think about when we sat here and we did the show on the breaking news of Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And then it fast forwards me to when Zimmerman went on trial.
Mm-hmm.
One, it took them so long to actually hand down a charge. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Two, when they did hand it down, how does the jury come back and say that it was a justified killing?
Mm-hmm.
How does a jury come back after they turn Martin into a suspect when he had and he's he's a victim? Okay, real quick, I've got Cheryl coming in.
Okay.
There she is. There's my girl.
Well, you see her and I don't see her.
You don't see
Well,
her?
there she is. Yeah, what's up, Cheryl?
What's going on, my love?
Hey, there seems to be a bit of a delay, and I'm in the, you know what we doing. We MacGyver in this today, right? Let me see if I can move.
Oh my God, that's good. That is good. So we've got the lovely Miss Cheryl Ford-Dorsey with us. She's trying to play double duty. She just got off set at CNN. Oh dear goodness, girl, you're doing it.
It's all good.
Girl, it happened. I need to be, what was that actor in Duplicity, when there was like 10 of them, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why this is messing with me. I'm going to move around, you guys. Just bear with me.
Okay, we got a slight delay.
Out of the sun. Okay.
Yeah, we got a slight delay, but that's okay. We'll work with it. We'll work with it. I mean, that's what happens live. You know that.
So, Cheryl, give us your perspective on the recent verdict that was passed down concerning the shooting in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Well, listen, I was so bothered by that. I mean, every now and again, I just have to step away. It's overwhelming because it's not getting better. It feels to be getting worse. There's no accountability. It almost feels like they're trying to lull us into a false sense of security with these charges, right? Ooh, they charged him, and they pile up the charges and the counts, and then we get to the doggone time to convict, and either the conviction is minimal, the penalty is probation, as in the case of Akai Gurley, And then you
Right.
have an officer who shoots somebody right afterwards, is pacing like a saber-toothed tiger, according to reports, because he's just freaking out. Says, I don't know why I did it, like the shooter in Miami-Dade who shot Charles Kinsey, and the jury finds him not guilty. I would love to know what the three blacks on that jury had to say. What was their perspective? Because I was encouraged
Right.
when I found out there were going to be three black people on there.
Exactly. But see, the ironic part is that you'll never hear the perspective of those who are of color who are sitting on these juries. You won't hear the perspective.
Well, I don't know if they discourage them from speaking, or I think generally you get the option. Now, I know the jury was sequestered, but when it was said and done, I wonder if they gave them the option and they just said, you know what, this is too hot, and I don't want nobody knowing who I am. But I was just really disappointed, and so this just goes to show, not guilty. You shoot somebody, I believed he had a gun. You're not even required to see a gun. You're not even required to be fearful anymore, right? That's what they used to say. Oh, I was in fear for my life.
Right. But let me ask you this, Cheryl, because Reggie and I were talking about right before you came on the issues of training. And I know that we have touched on this in the past because you've been on before, right? But it's been a couple of years. Here it is with this former police officer who had just been out of training. He was just released out of training and then put in the field. Isn't there some sort of time frame that when an officer completes his training and then is released into the field, isn't there a time frame or some sort of buffer?
Well, every department is different, right? And so I'm assuming that maybe this was a small agency. I don't know. Not everyone has the luxury of, and of course, since I spent 20 years on LAPD, I think we're amazing. But, when I was in the police academy for 6 months, when I got out of the police academy, I was with a training officer for 12 more. And they were monitoring my every move. They were evaluating me. They were critiquing my judgment, my common sense, all of that for 12 entire months. And so wouldn't it be nice if every police department was LAPD?
Wouldn't it be?
Because to let someone out of the academy and put them out on the street unsupervised, so it would seem, is outrageous.
So let me ask you this question, because we also were kind of discussing before you came on the time or the hesitation time. Is it that a police officer is taught to not hesitate or to not take into consideration of being sure that a person has a weapon, or is it that you just automatically act or react?
We're trained, and again, training is different, and that's why it needs to be really uniform and standardized, I think, in terms of how officers are trained and don't shoot scenarios. Again, I know money is an issue, and we had don't shoot scenarios all the time in the academy, but it was for 6 months, and we were required to look at targets that would face us and make a determination. Is it a target of a granny, with a cane walking, or is it a target of a bad guy? You have to know. You better know who and what you're shooting at when you pull a trigger. You don't get to just think, because you don't get to do it.
But Cheryl, but then explain to me then, how is it that they don't think? And especially when you've got a victim that is, or someone who that you call a suspect, and he is fleeing from you. He has his back to you. How is it that you can justify shooting that person in the back?
Well, you can't justify it, but there's no accountability.
But that's what's going on.
There's no accountability and there's no deterrence. And clearly there's no deterrence because, listen, this guy was found not guilty. So what would preclude him if he were to get on another police department, much like Betty in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who shot Terrence Crutcher in the back and said that his mere presence scared her, and then she was picked up in another department, or Timothy Loman, who shot 12-year-old Tamir Rice and was picked up by another department. There's no deterrence. And so listen, if I was a police officer and I shot somebody and nothing happened to me, why would I do anything different? What is there for me to change? You seem to like the way I get down, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So how do we change this? Reggie had asked that question. How do we change it? Where does it begin?
Well, it's a I think I talk about this all the time when I'm doing my speaking engagements. I talk about, young people need to get on these police departments. Let's start with that. Because these young people are not hearing folks encouraging them to become police officers. Change is going to come from the inside. I hear young men who have been to prison and lawyers because they didn't like the way the judicial system worked and they wanted to champion that cause for other folks. You never hear people say, the police stopped me, he was rude to me, I'll be on that department. We don't hear that. And listen, most of other people to get on these police departments because white folks are not doing that. They recruiting KKK. We know this to be true because of an FBI report, right? So if we're not on that department, then how do we make those changes? How do we become police sergeants like me who can tell their subordinates, we don't set people on the curb. We don't do that. We don't beat people up at the end of a foot pursuit or be somewhere down the road and set policy. You got to be in that fear pool as a ground pounder, as a patrol officer. But if you're not encouraged and that department isn't recruiting, then guess what? Here we are.
So, and I don't want to take over, and I know Reggie probably has some questions, but let me ask you this last question so Reggie could jump in. So, as a former LAPD sergeant, what words would you have for the average young man or young woman who wants to see change, but are not sure as to if they want to be a part of whatever law enforcement agency is in the home city or state that they live?
Well, joining is just one part of it. The other part of it is we have to be engaged and involved when there's an opportunity for community input. When they have community meetings and folks can come out and talk to the police chief or the sheriff about whatever's going on in their particular town, or when they are in the selection process for a police chief, you need to go and ask questions. When they appoint mayors and judges and prosecutors, you need to be voting for these people because everybody has a part to play in this. And so that's why I say there's not one thing that will fix it. There are many things, and it's going to take some time because this stuff has been going on for a long, long time, and it's deeply rooted in the police culture.
Yeah, it is. Reggie, I'm going to turn it over to you because, see, I can talk to my girl all night long. We can just drop it.
But, Sarah, you touched on a point a few minutes ago concerning the infiltration of racist individuals into the police force. Now, I don't know anything about this young man over at East Pittsburgh, but I get some just tells me down my gut that this dude was just aiming to take out a young black man, because his actions were too quick.
Well, I can't speak to his heart, right? And listen, and large, I do believe that there are no police officers out there who wake up in the morning want to kill a black person. I believe, and I won't believe this. But at the same time, if you have an officer who's not well trained, or if you have an officer who has not quite the right temperament to do the job, you have an officer who can't look at
Cheryl's breaking up on us. She's breaking up on us, Reg. You still there, Cheryl? You sound like you're in a can, bouncing around.
Yeah, but you're bouncing around.
Yeah, the connection is bouncing.
I don't see Tony at all, but I continue to talk.
Yeah, keep going. It might catch up on this. Did we lose her?
I think we might have lost her.
We might have lost her.
No, wait.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I can see you. I see you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
So what I was saying is that I don't think officers by and large wake up wanting to kill a black person. But when there's no consequence for bad behavior, when they do things that are out of policy, then you don't change the behavior if you don't correct it.
Okay, so do you think that So what is it, do you think, that is stopping some of these agencies, these law enforcement agencies, from either rewriting their policy and procedures, or is it something that we now need to put in the hands of the federal government to do? Because it seems like the local state and city, or state and local agencies are not making the changes that are required to try and
Are you still there, Reggie?
murders.
Yes.
I only see you on my screen, so I don't know where Tony went.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna pop back in, Reg. Can you let her know?
Yeah, Tony's coming back.
Okay, well, we can just talk until she makes it back. I don't see her anymore.
So, I mean,
there we go.
But Cheryl, this has got to come to an end one of these days. I mean, where the onslaught, the slaughter of a young black man has to stop. You know, what is it going to take to get this thing to stop? The killings to stop?
Well, it's going to take some time. You know, unfortunately, sadly, I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime. I don't think I'll be here to see it. It's been going on too long. It's too deeply rooted. And, you know, there's too much resistance to change. When you have fraternal order police officers and other unions who are fighting aggressively to keep the status quo, then you understand that we got to do something more than just hope and pray and want things to get better. We got to get engaged and get involved.
Right, right. Well, I don't think it helps that the fact that we have a president sitting in the White House who goes during a press conference and says, you know, rough them up a bit. Don't worry about it. Their head hits the top of the car when you're putting them in there. They're criminals, right? They're criminals. That kind of attitude, I think, is also feeding what we still have going on. And that's where it's going to be more difficult for people to make these changes in these policies in these law enforcement agencies, don't you think?
Well, listen, I mean, the police, you know, that guy in the White House, Little Tink Tink is what I call him. I won't say his name. Listen, in my opinion, he is so far removed from what we do as police officers day to day. He can get on TV and say stupid stuff, and, you know, in a minute he'll be gone. It's the police chiefs. Police chiefs have tremendous power and autonomy. They are the ones that set policy. They are the ones that run these police departments. They are the ones that shelter and coddle officers who use deadly force as a first resort instead of a last resort. That's why it's important to make sure that you have a police chief who is not one of these go along to get along kind of people. A police chief who doesn't just say one thing and then do something else. And sometimes those are elected officials, and police chiefs aren't, but they certainly are appointed by an elected official, and I'm talking about a mayor.
You know, you were talking about police resistance through the union.
Oh, we lost her. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, you're talking about police resistance, you know, how the unions are resisting the changes that need to take place in the police department. You know, it was sad to see that the police chief in Portsmouth, Virginia, was pressured to resign. You know, that's crazy. You know, that's crazy.
You know, I saw that story. I spoke about it today when I went live on Facebook, and I don't know the background. I'm a little concerned that she would be forced to resign, and she did it. Because I'm thinking, shoot, they'd have had to take me out there. I'd have been acting all kind of fools. I'd have been fools at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock.
Right.
And they would have fired me. I wouldn't have resigned. And so why she resigned is beyond me. Because if they had a legitimate reason to fire her, then I'd say, you know,
fire her.
Shit, if you can name it in 4 notes, then name it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good, you cussed. Now I can cuss, Cheryl. I can cuss. Yes.
Girl, every now and then the cop comes out in me. I'm sorry.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh. But you know what? I totally respect what law enforcement officers do. I respect what they do because they do put their lives on the line every day. They are thrust into situations that they don't know what that outcome can be. You know, they put their lives in danger every day because you don't know what you're going to walk into. But there has to be some sort of way of either psychologically figuring out who these people are who have decided to become law enforcement officers, right?
Right. And so, there's a psychological exam that most police departments put you through. Now, what I say is it should be recurring, because you could come on and your mind be right, and then you get exposed to some stuff or some people who get you doing things that are not in the interest of the community or the department. And so that's why it's important, I think, for police officers to be reevaluated and just make sure that their heads are on right. And if they're not, then let's help them over to Pizza Hut or Sparklets or wherever it is they need to be.
Now, when you say reevaluate, are you talking about annually?
Well, again, because resources is a problem. And so I don't know what budgets, would allow and how you would do that, but certainly maybe every 2 years, if not every year, depending on the size of an agency. Every year, have a sit down, or every 2 years, sit down with your officers. We have in-service training where we are reevaluated, retrained. We're required to qualify on an annual, weekly, or even monthly basis in some places. And so why not do the same thing and make sure the officers' heads are in a good space? Because listen, there's enough evidence out there to show us that police officers' heads are not always in a good place. Do you know how high the suicide rate is for police officers?
Oh, yeah.
The alcoholism for police officers, how many police officers are involved in domestic violence because they have anger management issues. Why wouldn't you want to have some kind of a program where you were looking out for the betterment of your employees if you really cared? But the system does what the system was designed to do, and that's why it's status quo.
So,
in my opinion.
So, question for you, because I'm noticing that as time goes on, I'm seeing more and more officers who are in these involved shootings. They are either taking young people's lives or they're injuring them very badly. Okay. I'm noticing that a lot of these officers are, say, younger in age. You find them anywhere between their mid-20s to mid-30s. You don't see the more seasoned officers that are in these officer-involved shootings. Do you think that that's playing a part as to why you've got victims being shot down in the street like this every day? Is it an age issue? Is it a maturity issue?
I don't know that there's any one thing you can say, because if you look at some of the shootings and some of the incidents where police officers have been involved, for me, the only real constant are men, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of men that are involved in these shootings. Yeah. And it varies in ages, and it varies in time on the job, because I understand, young police officers between 3 and 9 years, just like a teenager, right? They're like teenagers. They're feeling they're old, right. And, they're smelling themselves, and they're out there now, with another peer who's like minded and 6-7 years on the job, and so they're ready to do what we say, which is kick ass and take names.
Okay.
And so about that life, right? I get that. But every now and then we see that there's an older tenured police officer with some years under his belt that you would think would know better and would do better. So the thing for me that seems to be constant is men. And I don't know if it's that testosterone that courses through their little bodies that makes them batshit crazy or what.
But see, that's even more reason to have psychological evaluations. That's even more reason. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, because listen, what I know is on the LAPD, when I was working in Vice as a supervisor, Vice on the LAPD is a limited tour. You can only do it for 18 months. And the way I was told is that it's a limited tour because of the things that you're exposed to. And you could understand working Vice. You're dealing with some gnarly stuff. So The department only lets you do it for a minute. If they understand that about Vice, then you have to recognize and admit the things that a patrol officer sees day in and day out, every day for 8 hours or 12 hours, depending on your shift. Don't you think that some of that stuff could mess you up? Absolutely it could. And recognize that. I talk about things that I've seen. And listen, this was back, when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And it still bothers me. My very first radio call, I went to a young man had been shot in the stomach. I had never seen anybody
Oh,
sit and talk to me as they held their intestine in their hand. I had never seen that. I saw a guy jump off of a building and live after we had spent 30 minutes talking to him about it. I saw a baby get hit by a drove for blocks until finally another motorist was able to stop his path of progression. I'm telling you these things, and they happened years ago. It bothered me then, it bothers me now. And that's not unique to me. I'm not afraid to admit it. When I saw that guy jump off that roof and live, I told my lieutenant, I said, we need to have BSS come here and talk to our officers. And they did come, and none of my officers wanted to talk to BSS. They said, no, Sarge, I'm cool, I'm good, because it's not sexy. It's not sexy to self-report that you're having some issues or you're not dealing with stuff. And that's why the department needs to mandate, regulate, regularly reevaluations of psychological.
But that's just human. That is just human for you to be affected by such tragic events.
Right. And I think some of those things have to play a part in why and when officers become heavy-handed and why they may be a little aggressive at times. And that aggression tends to lead to a citizen not understanding, why are you talking to me like that? Because now you're disrespecting me. And you know what happens when one man disrespects another man, right? The man who carries the gun is going to use it on you because what you talking to me that way? Let me show you, right?
I don't know. Like I say, you are my Shiro. I could not do half the stuff that you've done. There's no way. I am such a powder puff.
Well, and listen, and that's okay too, because it's not for everybody. And so there's no harm or shame in saying, you know what, I tried it. Listen, if they put me in an ER room and expected me to do and deal with the kinds of things that happen in a trauma unit day in and day out, y'all would laugh at me and point and snicker. Because I'm not built that way, right?
Oh my gosh. So what's up next for you, Miss Dorsey?
Well, I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. It's not a next, it's ongoing. And that's speaking my truth and trying to get this message in the heads and minds of as many young people as I can. I have a speaking tour, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks website. Can go to and find out more about when I'm speaking and where I'm speaking. I have a YouTube channel, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, and I have a podcast that I do weekly, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. So
I know. I tune in.
So I'm just everywhere and anywhere where people will let me do this thing that I do. That's why, we had to MacGyver this little thing here because I just left CNN, talking about Jussie Smollett and hitting that foolishness.
Give us your opinion on that whole situation.
Well, listen, everybody knows Jesse did that, and Jesse knows he did it too. But see, I did a little live thing on Facebook, and I said, this is what it looks like when you got coin and a good attorney. Mark Garagos is no joke. Now, I don't know what's going to happen to him because he got snarled up in some Avenatti foolishness on yesterday, right?
Yeah.
But this is what happens when you have a good attorney, and so I'm not mad at him. Black folks are celebrating right now like they did when OJ was found not guilty because for too many times the system does not work for us. And so Justice had the coin to go get him a good attorney. They worked out a deal behind the scene. They sealed it up. So can't nobody see what was done or said or not done.
They sealed it?
It's sealed up. Yes.
Dang.
Yes, ma'am. And he said, you can go ahead and keep the little $10,000 bail I put up. Who does that if you're not guilty? Who seals up paperwork, documents, records, files if you're not guilty, right?
Well, look,
listen,
you think the FBI going to charge him with mail fraud?
I don't know. You know what? I think he needs to go sit down. I think he needs to show a little humility. He got on TV talking about I'm Sarah's baby boy or whatever his mother's name is. And there ain't no way I would have done that. Because, see, he won this battle, but there's a war.
But exactly.
There's a war raging. And
I
you know,
agree.
he made it very difficult down the road to be on another set because listen, black folks aren't sponsors or nothing. We don't have no money to put behind no shows.
Mhm.
So he needs to be
OMG.
very careful.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because I was actually talking to my mom, earlier before I got home, and she was telling me that he basically the charges were no longer, and I thought, oh my God, really, really. But
And
then,
so
like you said, the,
to do that, you know, the prosecutor gets to decide. The police take it to them, and then they decide. That's why you hear all the time about DA rejects. We take a case to the prosecutor, and they say, I don't think so. Grand jury indicted him. 12 people listened and saw the evidence. They didn't see all of it. They saw enough to say there's sufficient cause to go to trial. And then the prosecutor overrides the grand jury. What?
uh, uh, but you know what? I have to admit, I'm glad he did get off because, like you said, we need to rally, but I don't want to rally for someone who is wrong. I still have my morals and my values, and I'm sure Reggie feels the same way. It's hard to rally against or for someone who is wrong.
Right.
But
And you know, there's that underlying thing of victims of racial animus,
yeah,
phobia. You know, I mean, listen, that could be a whole nother show, you know, why people don't come forward and report. And then for him to be a gay man, a black man, you got a double whammy against you. So now a black man, a black gay woman, a black straight man comes forward,
girl.
It's all about the money. You got money, like she said, a good lawyer, you're gonna get on.
You're right. You're right, Reggie. You guys are totally, totally right. Well, we are coming close to that end, Miss Cheryl. When are you coming back? I didn't hear. When you coming back on with us? Uh-oh. I'm at the end, Reg, and the connection's getting really bad. Can you hear Reggie?
I hear her, but it sounds like she's in a can. Oh,
there she is.
I said anytime.
Really?
Anytime. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I appreciate you giving me a platform, and I appreciate getting in front of some different faces. So anytime.
Girl, we got you.
Yeah.
Yes.
We got you.
That's
all right.
Why I wanted to get with you tonight because I was like, we're gonna make this happen, right? You don't even know what I'm doing. I'm sitting on the floor in this stretch limo, trying to stay out of the sunlight, trying to make sure my connection, my picture is good.
Oh my gosh.
We do appreciate it. We really appreciate it, Cheryl.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are your biggest fans.
Thank you.
And this is always going to be home for you.
That's right.
So anytime, if you just want to get on here and just, talk some shit.
Oh, yeah. Girl. Or that's what I do best.
Yeah. So we're going to have you back real soon. I want you to be safe. Okay, continue doing what you're doing because we are totally, totally proud of you.
Yes, we are.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we are.
I appreciate it.
All right, I'm gonna call you soon.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Take good care, you two.
Okay.
All right, love you so much. All right, you guys. That was Miss Cheryl Ford-Dorsey. You hear what she said? She's in the floor of a limo trying to do the show. I'm telling you,
we appreciate it.
Yeah, she comes through for us no matter what, and that's the way it was, a few years ago. So we really appreciate Miss Cheryl. But it was good to have her on because she always lends great perspective, as to what we see in the media and what she sees or has seen behind the scenes as an officer, and now as basically she's consulting with a lot of these media outlets, and that they're getting her perspective because she has such expertise. So she always brings such great perspective to whatever it is that we're talking about when we're talking about law enforcement. So my hat is off to her.
Yeah. And, it's great to hear, hear another perspective, from a person that's an authority in that field,
Right.
And, the one thing, if I had been Smollett today, I would just went out the back door and went home. Okay. Seriously, because he got he got a gift today. But think about the young black men who are innocent, that don't have the money to afford a high-power lawyer to negotiate getting out of 16 felony counts that the grand jury felt like he did do something, and for him to get out of it. Think about the young black men behind bars tonight that don't have that money. He can walk away from the table and leave $10,000 laying on the table.
I think he just made a mockery of what we would call justice, and true justice, when you can use money as your leverage, as your tool, because he did wrong.
Yeah, that's why I said I would have went out the back door. I wouldn't have been in front of cameras or nothing.
But
I would just left.
Yeah, but you're talking about somebody who is greedy for the camera, someone who thrives on that. And most of the entertainers that we see in today's, television, movies, wherever, we look at them and we say, you know what, they're great at what they do. Well, the more we build them up, the more big-headed they get, and the more they think that they can get away with certain things. Just like in this case, he just got away with falsifying a crime, a hate crime, no less. So I don't know. Don't know. Let me read a comment. Let's see. I'm really hoping you guys did enjoy Miss Dorsey. She is she's the best, ain't she, Reg?
She is, and we're fortunate to be able to have her come on our show,
because she doesn't do that often.
Thank you.
Anytime she is doing any TV, she is sitting on the sets of CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, you name the outlets, she's there, and she does this on a huge level. And for her to come back to us and continue to do this with us, that's huge. She doesn't do that.
That's right. So we are fortunate. Well, look, you're talking about comments, going back to some early comments. Pamela Smith Moore made a comment. She said, how can you justify a child running from a scene, talking about he felt threatened, talking about he thought he had a gun? The justice system is just screwed up. That's how they just justify shooting out black youth and protecting their own, meaning the cops.
She's right.
She's right.
She's right.
So, it's sad. Like Cheryl said, we might not see this change in our lifetime, because it's going to keep happening. But at the same time, like a good point she made was our young men need to get on the force themselves and affect the change. Get on the force now at 21, 22, 23. Who knows? If you work hard, you might be police chief one day somewhere. And affect that change that needs to be take place in the system,
Right. Because I meant to ask her, what did she think was the reason why black young men and women don't get on the force?
I think it's because what they see every day. And I don't think they want to be a part of that. Even though the percentage.
But they want to see change, though.
Right. But even though the percentage, good versus bad, the percentages are more good than bad situations. It's enough bad going on that turns them off. And they're saying, why am I going to be a part of this situation? Why am I going to be a part of this situation? I was talking to someone yesterday, or the day before yesterday. They were saying the reason they didn't become police officers And this was a person from Portsmouth, Virginia. This was before even the police chief resigned today, but we were just talking about problems and everything. He said he grew up in the neighborhood. He said generally what happens, they send you back to your neighborhood. You got to look at the men you grew up with. Then you got to look at the children you grew up with. You know, their children, you got to look at them. And then you got to make decisions on how to deal with them. He said he just didn't want to have to go back to his community and deal with his guys he hung out on the corner with and deal with their family and their children. You know, especially if something jumped off.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the things. And then I think too, they just seen too much bad going on in the police departments. And they saying, I don't want no part of this. I don't want to have to tell my friend, oh, I'm a police officer now. Or you never tell your friends what you're doing.
The enemy.
Yeah.
Basically become the enemy.
They're gonna say, man, how can you do that, man? Police are shooting and killing us. Why do you want to be a police officer? They don't want to. They don't want the hassle.
Sad, but I agree.
Yeah, you know, it's like here in the DC Police Department, I think they're down almost 1,000 officers right now.
Really?
Yeah, because guys have retired, guys have gotten tired of it, and they have a hard time recruiting. You know, here in the DMV, you can get a job on police force because they're having a hard time recruiting. Nobody wants to do it no more. Used to be one of those prestigious jobs like being a preacher or teacher or mortician. You know, nobody wants to do it no more. You know.
Well, because you know what, societally, we have our communities have changed. People have become more violent. Now you've got gun laws that allows people to carry guns. So you've got more threat out there of losing your life. And how do you put a dollar amount or on salary that a law enforcement officer makes in comparison to what his life is worth? So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So then we are stuck with those crazy ass people that are coming into the forces with all of these psychological issues when it has to do with race or creed or color or gender or, you know, sexual preferences. They've got all of these damn issues. And that's why we're in the spot that we're in now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, we've got 1 minute, Mr. Reg. You want to give me a closing?
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. This is a very important topic, and we'll come over for doozy for next week too. There's a lot of stuff going on out here right now.
Oh, yeah.
So we got some stuff we can talk about. You know, one of the things I was thinking about next week. You know, the old guard versus the new guard, and talking about the seasoned politicians who have been in office for umpteen years, and the newbies on the block, and they're trying to push them out of their seats. You know, because with anything you need new blood. That's pretty good. Because the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, a couple of the young people, even Kamala made the comment that it's time for some of the old guard to pass the baton on to the younger people. Yeah, and they need to set term limits, though. That's the issue. Yeah, but probably might be an interesting topic to talk about next week and get people to weigh in on it. Let's see if I can get us a politician on here. Yeah. It would be nice to get Miss Ortega's on here next week. Something for me to look into. Yeah, call her office up and see. Call her office up and see if you want to get on. You know what? I just might do that. We might be surprised. She might take the opportunity. Yeah, well, those freshmen, they are trying to make names and platforms for themselves. They are trying to be seen as much as they can. They're in a very great seat right now. So it would be good to hear her viewpoint, or any progressive that we could get from next week. It'd be good to hear that viewpoint on what they're doing and what they're thinking. I'll reach out. Okay. I'll do that. That's going to be on my list of top things to do. Yeah, just tell her we just need it from 8:30 to 9:30. You
I
know,
can do
I
that.
don't think it's nothing pressing in Congress right now. You know, that might require her to miss it if she made an appointment for it.
Nothing.
Yeah. So,
All right.
yeah.
So I didn't get to everybody's comments. Let's see. Drew Riley. Hey. Oh my gosh. If we had greater numbers, we would have more interested in the involvement. However, so many are killed, have been killed, incarcerated at young age that it's taken a toll on the numbers available. Interested individuals that choose to be police officers, nurses, DAs, mayors, etc. Great point. Great point.
Mhm.
I really want to say thank you to everybody who had tuned in tonight. It was really a good show. And again, we do want to thank Miss Cheryl Ford-Dorsey for coming in and sitting with us. It's always a pleasure to have her. And I'm sure she will be coming back soon because there's always something going on in the news when it has to do with law enforcement. That's for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But you can catch Real World News TV right here every Tuesday night. Did you give me your last thought?
I did.
You can catch Real World News TV right here on Facebook under Real World News TV every Tuesday night. The show always begins at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Central, and 8:30 on the East Coast. Make sure that you hit up our Facebook page, our website at hottopics.com, as well as catch up on all the past shows by going to YouTube. That's at Hot Topics Talk Radio Network. You can catch up on all of the shows. So we really appreciate your support. I want you to come on back here. I'll be sitting on Hot Topics Talk Radio tomorrow night. Me, Yvonne Baker, and Mr. Chris Smith. Show starts at 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock Central, and 11 o'clock on the East Coast. Tomorrow night, we're asking the question, Reg. Are you happy being single?
Are you?
Sometimes. But that is what we're talking about tomorrow night, is being single. You know, are you okay with it? So come on back here on Hot Topics Talk Radio, right here on Facebook with me, Yvonne Baker, and Chris Smith. Again, the show starts at 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock Central, and 11 o'clock on the East Coast. It's been a great show. I really thank you guys for your support. Thanks again, Miss Cheryl. I'll talk to you soon. Reggie, great job. And I guess we're out of here.
That's right. Good night, everyone.
All right. I didn't even don't go anywhere yet.
What?
You know why? Because I forgot to put the banner up.
That's okay. They know who this show is. This is Real World News TV with Reggie Kearney, Sarah Tampa, and Tony Breedlove.
Are you serious? I can't do that. I can't go out without a banner.
Okay, quick banner up.
Okay, so I don't even know what to say while I'm trying to do this. Here it comes. Here it comes. I promise. Here it comes. I promise. It's coming. It's coming up. I promise. Right now.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Good night.
Good night.
Real World News TV, we are now clear. Once again, thank you for joining in. And once again, thank you to Miss Cheryl Ford-Dorsey, my girl. Tune in next week on Tuesday night at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Central, and 8:30 on the East Coast. Good night and God bless.